As Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside by themselves and said to them on the way, "Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death, hand him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and scourged and crucified, and he will be raised on the third day." I was thinking about this here, just the word mocked, and it's something that I forget Jesus went through. I know the suffering and the things that he endured, um, as listed in here. Obviously, I didn't go through it, so I don't deeply understand it. But I forget about this one that just in that Jesus has experienced some of the things that we experience that are kind of surprisingly painful and scarring. Um, just that sometimes I struggle a little bit with that, feeling like what I go through, Jesus wouldn't be able to have grace or mercy or understand because he was perfect. And so he didn't sin and then suffer the consequences of his own sin. But he was perfect and suffered the consequences of the sin. And so it's a different, like to me, if I am in a situation where I am doing the right thing all the time in this situation, and then I'm suffering for somebody else's sin, and I'm doing it in a way that's kind of, I don't know, borderline heroic, like, and I'm describing me, obviously, Jesus, it's not borderline, but I just, sometimes it makes me feel like I don't, there's a difference, there's a big difference there, because there's a side of it when I'm suffering because of my own sin or because of my own mistakes or whatever, that there's nothing heroic and it's shameful and it's, but I just remembering there's other things that were experienced that by Jesus that do make it more open to him relating, or like, not relating. I know that you know what, you're all smart. You can figure out kind of what I'm getting at. I cannot find right words, so I'm not describing it well. So you have to like figure it out for yourself because my brain is broken. All right, I'm not even playing. So then Then the mother of two of the sons of Zebedee approached him with her sons and said to him, and did him homage, wishing to ask him for something. He said to her, "What do you wish?" She answered him, "Command that these two sons of mine sit, one at your right and the other at your left, in your kingdom." Jesus said in reply, "You do not know what you are asking. Can you drink the cup I am going to drink?" They said to him, "We can." He replied, "My cup you will indeed drink, but to sit at my right hand, or my right and my left, this is not mine to give, but is for those whom it has been prepared by my Father." When the 10 heard this, they became indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus summoned them and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great ones make their authority over them felt. But it shall not be so among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you shall be your servant." Amen. "Whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. Just so the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give in and to give his life as a ransom for many." Okay, so I wanted to talk about a concept here, and I keep yammering, and so I'm trying again. Um, there is something about being in a service position, whether it's a food server, a janitor, um, basically anything where you're at the lower level or lowest level. For me, I've been trapped at the lowest level of work my whole work life, like because of issues that I'm only identifying now, that are the cognitive issues and stuff that I didn't realize were part of that equation for me until recently. Anyways, and one of the things here that I will say is, if you've never been in work that you are serving people and um, kind of, I guess basically just let's say just at the lowest point. Um, there are perspectives on people and life that you get that you don't get other places, and you cannot really get them um, as a concept that you read about. It has to be experienced. And so if you've never been in this place, the biggest thing I can say that's really important is to understand you don't understand. Like for real, you don't understand. Because there are a lot of things that you can't just tell people, okay, well, this is what it's like for this person. It's not something that can be handed on that way. Um, but there is something humbling about being in this position, and also um, I guess it creates a way, a perspective of the world and of people that that's important. And I could go into it more, but I'm afraid I'll start yammering like crazy. But I think that it's like really important to embrace that time when you're at the lowest level. And I know that some people bypass that. A lot of people never have to be in the food industry or like working in service industry or customer service. A lot of people don't have to do that. They are able to bypass it through education, through whatever. Um, and I'm not saying that there's nowhere that they experience this, but understand if you have not experienced it um, in an area where you are at the bottom of the pile with the general public, like day in and day out, lots and lots of people, it's very different. Like, if, for example, if you're an underclassman somewhere and you deal with it, it's not the same at all. If you're starting out at a new workplace in like where you have a college degree and all this kind of stuff, but you're still at the bottom of the thing, it's not the same. Um, because it's that's a workplace, that's a group, one group of people. But when you're dealing with the general public and you see a lot of different sides of people, and it's just different. um, but it's valuable. It's really hard, just so you know. It's very hard, and it's getting harder. And that's the other thing I'll say is, if you have not been at the bottom of the work chain, kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, food chain, um, since in the last, I would say in the last 5 or 6 years, then your information is outdated. You might still be able to relate with it, but it's getting really bad. And I honestly, until something changes, it will likely just get worse. Um, because there's an abuse of power going on there. But anyways, one way or the other, there's a perspective to be gained here that creates humility and it creates a mindset that is not quick to assume things, to assume you understand, to assume you know people very well, to assume what people might mean. You learn to clarify and to leave it open-ended and a little bit. And it's an important step. And the problem I see is a lot of people who bypass this are in leadership. And I think that before anybody can ever lead well, they have to know how to follow well. And that's missing these days, which is part of the reason it's going downhill. But shut up, Avenel. Okay. As they left Jericho, a great crowd followed him. Two blind men were sitting by the roadside, and when they heard that Jesus was passing by, they cried out, "Lord, Son of David, have pity on us." The crowd warned them to be silent, but they called out all the more, "Lord, Son of David, have pity on us." Jesus stopped and called them and said, "What do you want me to do for you?" They answered him, "Lord, let our eyes be opened." Moved with pity, Jesus touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. And this is one of those things. The crowd warned them to be silent. I I don't know. I love that they cried out all the more. Like, because I, as a person who has struggled cognitively and physically and had issues, there's a lot of times where culture will tell you to just be polite. Oh, don't be negative. Oh, don't do that. That you do have to learn to cry out all the more to be heard. And the same is true for me in prayer, because there's a cultural influence on my prayer life that is to be polite in prayer. There is nothing about any of the prayers that I've read in this Bible, about in Psalms, where anybody's being polite. People are being very bold, and they're crying out all the more, and they're demanding to know things of God, because we have to do that, really, to be able to get past our own doubts. When we're being super polite, we're creating all these things in our head that they create doubt. Like, if it's not too much trouble, would it be all right? Or, um, just saying it, like, we just say it too soft and too timid. And sometimes we have to push past that, the socially acceptable prayer, whatever way of being very polite and formal. And we just have to say, Lord, you promised me this. Where is it? Because that's how David prayed. Like, and I just think that that's an important concept. And I'm going to shut up because I don't know what's wrong with me this morning, but I cannot stop.